Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. I can see the Zoom filling up, so I'll wait a few moments until I can see you all here. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Karina, Christina, Leanne, Darren, Lauren, Kinetta, Shelley. I've probably missed a few people. Apologies if I have. Really nice to see everybody here. So welcome to our session today. We've got a very swift poolside chat, as we're calling it, because when you're in a heat wave, who needs a fireside chat? So we've switched it up a little bit. Got our fruit juice ready for our poolside chat. So we are going to be talking Champions programs, as we always do at Layer 8, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what the session will contain in a moment. My name is Sarah James. For those of you that don't know me, I run Layer 8, and Layer 8 exists to harness the collective power of people to reduce risk, and we do that through running Champions programs. So today, we're going to be taking you through our Layer 8 Champions Activate program, but we always want to ensure that if you're coming to a session of ours and you're spending your time, that you get something of value back. So we're going to be delivering some of the key content, learning and takeaways that we found over the last 10 years of running Champions programs, so that you can learn, you can take something back into your organisation to develop your program. Now, believe me, there is a lot to get through. Probably going to struggle in the half an hour that we have allocated, but please get your questions ready and we'll have some time at the end to answer those. So what can you expect from today? Well, we're going to go through a bit of a discovery that we made when we first started running Champions programs that became our blueprint. We're going to look at the 6 critical success factors for building a Champions program. And we're then going to have a look at how you can turn those critical success factors into a plan on a page that you can run your Champions program or ambassador program for the first 12 to 18 months. We're going to look at how you can collaboratively design your program alongside your champions or ambassadors, a quick course overview, and then also how to develop what we call a provocation statement, which is a mini business case for running champions or ambassador programs, full stop. I am joined by my colleague Denise Bearden, who can't speak today, among other things, is also the course leader for the Activate program. So Denise, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. A little bit about me. Some of you may know me. I do recognise 1 or 2 names already. So I am an associate at Layer 8, and I've been running security champion programs successfully for more than 5 years. And I've also been in the industry for, I think I'm coming up to 15 years now, running security awareness. So yeah, dealt with all sorts of different success programs and also different companies, different sizes, international, smaller, that kind of thing. So that's a bit about me. Thanks, Sarah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Denise. So there's quite a few of you on today's webinar. So I'm just going to ask you a very quick question, just so we know how to pitch the conversation. Are you running a program, a Champions or Ambassador program at the moment? So results coming in, I can see we've got some still trying to get approval, some about to set one up, and a couple have got them, but they need reinvigorating. Thank you so much for that. A few more people still answering the question. Okay, let me share the results on the screen. So, Robert, we're kind of an equal there, aren't we? Pretty much a third no, a third about to set one up, and a third yes, but needs reinvigorating. Thank you for that. Okay, well, hopefully we can give you some ideas about how to do that. I said that I was going to share a bit of a story, a bit of a discovery for something that we found out when we very first ran Champions programs. So like many of you, I'd been doing behavioural change programs for years, and we were tasked with this challenge, I guess, to 40 engineers had been brought into this new organisation. And they were told, you need to change behaviours of the people right out across the organisation. You know, they're doing some bad things, they're doing some naughty things, you need to go and change their behaviours. And we tried a different approach. To cut to the chase, the very first meeting that we had with these group of 40 engineers is, instead of getting them in the room and sort of saying to them, security is really important, this is why you need to be aware of security, we flipped it completely. And we asked them to tell each other stories about times they felt alive, engaged, and completely committed to protecting the organisation. Now, it was a bit of a risk, and we also got them to go away and do this exercise for an hour. So imagine you're in a new security team, and the first thing you're asked to do is to share stories about times you felt really awesome protecting the business. We had a few quite grumpy, grumbling faces as they walked off to do this exercise. But when they came back, I always remember this one gentleman, and he jumped up from his seat and he said, "Oh my gosh, you've got to meet Bob. Bob is amazing. I've just sat with him and had the best conversation." He said, "I've worked with Bob for 25 years and I never knew what he'd done to protect the business." And this kind of was our first light bulb moment to, when we have conversation, when we collaborate, and we have this real focus on trying to look for what works in a team or an organization, can we start to bring about behavior change? And really, that's part of the essence that we found in our programs that we've run, and it's free for you to take that essence as well. By flipping the perspective a little bit and starting off with your champions, looking at what they can already do well, what works really, really well, and using that as a kind of core theme to drive your program's success. So we're going to talk a bit more about how that looks in a moment. We're going to talk about the 6 critical success factors that we found that derives out of this. But before I do that, because let's get a little bit interactive here. In your opinion, people on the call, what do you think the most critical success factors are that you've perhaps thought about or that you've found if you have been running programs? If there's one that you don't see on that list, then feel free to put it in the chat and share with everybody on the call. Okay, I will share these with you in a moment, but just to let you know how the running totals are going. So a lot of people are saying strategic alignment, a couple of people, goodies in merch, quite a few more on vision and values, equal on learning and development. Cool branding is low down there. Ready-made activities, a few people. E-learning for champions, a few more. Measurement right at the top. Good champions coverage right at the top. CISO support actually even higher. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to end that poll now and just share the results so you can see what everybody has said. Yeah, so right at the top, CISO support, and yeah, absolutely is important. But Denise, would you like to reveal the 6 that we've seen over the last 10 years as really critical to the programs that we've run?
Love to. What's fantastic actually is the fact that, having seen what you all think and the way you've actually voted is spot on, can I just say, because it's been what we've discovered, hasn't it, Sarah, over time. And we have 6 that I'm going to take you through now. So this is what we call our running track, and I'm going to take you through it. If you start by looking at the diagram in the middle, we run from basic level right up to transformational, and all will become clear as I take you through this. So we start on the right-hand side, and strategic alignment was one of the ones that you voted as being super important. We agree. So I'm going to take you through transformational, that track. So this is your optimal level. Before I do that, I want to say I'm going to focus on optimal today, but please don't think, because I know some of you said you're still waiting for approval, that kind of thing. Don't worry. This is just to give you that North Star that we are heading towards. We work with programs all the time that are opportunistic, developmental, and also we work with people from the beginning, while they're setting something up. But I'll stick to optimal today so you know where we're trying to get to. So when it comes to strategic alignment, this is where you have full line of sight between what your champions are doing and the security strategy. So you're able to measure the impact your champion activity is having on risk reduction. So if I take you back a couple of layers to developmental, we have minimal technical alignment. And that would mean that at the minimum, you have some form of alignment with that security strategy. So you can see there's all different levels that you go from basic up to that optimal transformational. Number 2 is shared vision and values. And this is where your champions are operating within vision and values, that they are the ones that they created. Okay. And we're going to come on to that a little bit further into the presentation as to why that's so important. You also, when you're looking at shared vision and value as part of your program, it's absolutely key to record that your champions are constantly doing this. Okay. So it's not a case of just setting that vision and values and off they go. You need to be constantly checking in to make sure they're still adhering to that. So one thing, again, I wanted to show you here, opportunistic. So we come back in a couple of layers to opportunistic. So you may just be at that level where your security team's vision and values are what you're using. Okay, so that's your starting point, but at least it's aligned to your security strategy if that's what you're doing. Number 3 is learning and development. So this is where you have a comprehensive learning program for your champions. So it's aligned to your vision, security strategy. It also provides different levels of training as well. Remember, I'm talking optimal. So you may be training technical champions, and you may have separate champions who are more what we would call business lead. So they're not as technically minded, but they're still very strategic in what they're doing for you. These champions, when they have this learning development behind them at that transformational level, they'll be able to influence on security decisions and also impact your security strategy locally. So they're very proactive. They're very much involved with what's happening within their department or within their local office, if you're international or region, and they're feeding back in. Okay, so this becomes this two-way conversation that's going on all the time. Number 4 is measurement and rewards, which I think came out up top on the voting on this. Yeah, thought so. So this is, I know it's always a huge conversation, measurement, but this is where you're able to link your champion activity to risk reduction. And this is where you really begin to demonstrate the value of your program and how your champions are impacting the security of your organization. Okay, so when we come a bit further down here, kind of like opportunistic, we're looking for just a minimal level of measurement and also being able to reward your champions for what they're doing. Number 5, champion activities. So if they are transformational, they'll be influencing local processes and decisions. These types of champions are super active in raising awareness. They influence those decisions because they're very much involved. They're very much committed to the role. They're the type that will create their own materials out of what you provide to them, and they'll also create their own. They'll look at what your priorities are and they'll start to create their own. We do have programs where champions are at this level, so we're seeing this. And this is where you start to see really creative innovation. It's very exciting when they start to get to that level. They'll, things like apps they'll be coming up with to help protect the organization. So yeah, the reason we want to share that is because we want to assure you it does happen. We see it. It's marvelous when they get to that level. And then number 6, network coverage and administration. So this is about having, if you get to transformational, having proportional representation across the business. So these champions are communicated regularly, they understand their role, and they're invested in promoting security. but they're also very easy to find. So most people will have and will know their local champions. That's what we mean by that proportional representation. And also that you'll have a very clear onboarding and learning process, which is really well defined, and people will be able to find it easily and quickly. And that, in a nutshell, which I know is a whistle-stop tour, that in a nutshell is our 6 critical success factors.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. And of course, there are lots of things that are important with any program, but I guess it's taken us 10 years to kind of find which ones are the most critical. And when we start with this and really pull out those key strategic alignment aspects, then what you teach your champions, what you're measuring, the activities that you're giving them, they all sort of link together, so it becomes a much clearer and succinct message. So how can you make that happen? So we found really to get from zero or needs refreshing to that developmental level, which is the 3rd bar up, can take around 12 to 18 months. And we recommend that you spend the first quarter, which seems like a long time perhaps, planning, but really getting a clear idea of what are those behaviours that you need to focus on, so you've got that strategic alignment, to get the stakeholder engagement. And we're going to give you a bit of an exercise on that in a moment, getting some baseline statistics and pulling together a clear idea of your champion strategy and getting some basic measures in place. Of course, we get very het up about measures and trying to be able to measure all of it, but it is a maturity, and having some basic measures in place right at the beginning is important. Even, who are my champions? Where do they sit? Are they coming to sessions? Are they learning things, etc.? Before you start the recruitment campaign, we do recommend that recruitment stays for quite a while. People need time to see the message, to get the message reinforced, and also to have time in their diary to come along to the sessions as well. So giving people a lot of opportunity to really then start that collaborative design piece, where you walk them through, so they've got a really good understanding of, well, why is this important in my organisation? What are the risks and threats? And then they get the opportunity to collaboratively design the programme. And we're about to go into that in a moment. Once they've done that collaborative design, you can start to do the more business as usual, what we like to call champion in action sessions, where you're delivering knowledge and capability aligned to your key risk areas here. And you're also giving them those activities, whether they're little videos, meetings in a box, quick reference guides, the list goes on, right? Escape rooms, tabletop exercises. There's so many things then, and so many ways that your champions can help be really active. But make sure you're capturing that, making sure that you're getting them to let you know what they're doing, and link that to reward as well. So we always like to eventually start rewarding our champions for being active, because at the end of the day, that's really what we want, for them to take that learning and development and go out into the business and start to help change behaviours. So let's go into this collaborative design piece, because well, I won't steal Denise's line. I nearly said it.
Okay, so we very much see this as the secret sauce at Layer 8. It's what makes it very different from any other security champion program I've ever worked on. 4D, what does that stand for? So it's discover, dream, design, deliver. And this is where the champions get to create those vision and values themselves. And it really encourages buy-in and a sense of ownership. And whenever I've participated in these, there's no real technical way of saying it. They just get it. Okay. They just, when they go through this process, they understand the role, they understand the part they're supposed to play, and they own it. So the first part is the discover session. And that's where we sit down and talk to organizations, teams, to discover what people are already really good at. So what core strengths drive success? And Sarah mentioned this right at the beginning with Bob the superhero, and you'll be amazed at what comes out of these sessions. And there's also kind of, I think the participants surprise themselves when they really start to talk to each other. It's through storytelling, so they're telling each other stories about this positive aspects that are going on, and it creates a very positive vibe. Okay, so everybody starts inspiring everybody else, and then they come back to the table and share what they've discovered. Once we have that, we ask them, once we have them in that positive kind of frame of mind, we ask them, we'll start thinking about the future, you know, because you've found these little superheroes here, there, and everywhere. Imagine if everybody was behaving in this way, what would that look like? And that's where we ask them to start dreaming, what does that future, what ideal future look like? Once we have that, once we know what good looks like for them, we then take them through the design process. So how to design conversations with colleagues to share what we call the risk mitigating behaviors. So we'll discover what those priorities are. So an example would be, you know, 9 times out of 10, everybody's thinking about phishing most of the time. And what we do with the risk mitigating behaviors is we ask the champions to think about, well, what behaviors need to be encouraged to prevent phishing. So it's not just your sort of standard campaign line, it's really getting underneath and going, well, what behaviors do you want from your colleagues? And that really helps the champions to then go out and have those really courageous conversations with people. And then finally, how to deliver. So we show them how to get active and how to talk to colleagues. So sometimes if they find someone's a little bit negative about security, surely not, then we kind of give them that kind of framing as how to reframe security in a more positive light, and help them learn and also continually develop their human skills to go out there and deliver on their roles.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that covers it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, a couple more things to talk about very, very briefly before we get to Q&A. Okay, so we work in lots of different ways with organisations. Activate is a train the trainer, so we teach you and then we give you all the materials and workbooks, etc. If you want to ask any questions about it in more detail, we'll be available after the call, or you can email myself or inquiries. But just super quick, we do 5 group training sessions: strategy, recruitment, you get all the materials as well, program setup, session slides, etc. Session and activity planning, so all the materials for your champions, and 5 engagement and maturity, so rewards, maturity, tiers and pathways, etc. So we cram a lot in, but I'm not going to say anything more about that. I'm going to talk about, particularly for those that need to re-engage some of their stakeholders, what you can do, and we're going to provide a resource for it as well. So Denise.
Yeah, so this is, as Sarah said, you know, thinking about getting stakeholders on board, and Sarah's going to pop the resource into the chat, and that resource includes one we prepared earlier, but we didn't want to put that on the screen because you just end up reading through it. But really, the provocation statement is a powerful pitch. Okay, so it's a pitch to frame security using a perspective that your stakeholders will recognize and relate to. So instead of the usual approach where you might go to the board and say, well, this is the risk and how it can be mitigated, what this does is start by demonstrating an understanding and concern of the business priorities and how security can support them. So you're kind of linked right from the top: business strategy, security strategy, right through to the Champions program. So we put together some prompts, some questions for you to help you when you are putting together this provocation statement. And this is something that you would share with stakeholders, but it also ends up being really helpful to share with your champions, so they kind of know the context of where you're trying to take the program. So just very briefly, just to run through a couple of the questions. So the business problem: what problem will immediately resonate with everyone in your audience? And for everybody on this call, it will be completely different because all your businesses are very different. This is very bespoke to your organization. So is there a specific functional team that is experiencing this problem to do with the business? Then on to the security perspective. So what part does or can security play in the business problem you have outlined? So how can it support? How can it help? And then on to security champions as a solution. So what will be the quantifiable impact if the business can solve this problem? And what you'll find is as you go through these questions, because I hate a blank sheet of paper as much as the next person, this will really help you. So start by answering those questions, and then once you have that text, that's when you can modify it into the provocation statement. But that's all in the resource for you today.
Yeah, so I popped that in the chat. It's the first time I've shared a resource in the chat, so I'm hoping that people can see it. Denise and I tested it earlier. I know Denise can see it, so hopefully everybody else can see it too. Okay, so we'll go on to a short Q&A in a moment, but just to let you know, oh, that is not what I meant to do.
Oh, it's vanished.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button. Always the way. Okay, hopefully you can see that again now.
We're back.
What I was trying to do was actually send some links into the chat, and I pressed enter on the wrong place. But a lot of what we've spoken about today are available on our Layrate Champions Hub. So if you want any more details of the blueprints and the running track and those sorts of things, any guidance, please have a look on the hub, which is the first link. If you want any more details about the Activate programme, that is the second link. And we are running 2 cohorts in the near future that you can see on the screen, one in September 25, and the next one will be January 2026. The other thing just to say is if you ever want to have a chat with Denise or I, just generally about Champions programs, we are also very, very happy to do that, and we can set those sorts of things up with you. So let me have a look. I'm just putting the last poll up, but also please do let me know if you have any questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will be happy to try and answer them. There can be any questions about your program, anything that you want to know from our experience. Find out how to get to the Q&A now. Okay. Okay, just as that was going on, I was just thinking a little bit on the measurement piece, because that is something that we talk about a lot in the security community, don't we? Measurements. There's a measurement framework that we've used quite a lot, and it's based a little bit on the Kirkpatrick model of learning and measuring learning. So at the very bottom of the program, when you start off, you might want to measure things like program health. How many champions have I got? Where do they sit? Then you might want to start measuring reaction. So it's really important to actually know, particularly if your champions are volunteers, whether they are engaged and interested in the program, whether they feel like they're getting value from it. You also then want to measure at the next layer up what they're learning. So on those behaviours, those risk mitigating behaviours, are they learning anything? The next rung up, you want to measure what they're doing. So are they taking the activities that you're sharing and going out into the business and being active? And finally, you want to see whether there has been an impact on risk reduction. If you're measuring all of those things, then if there's a particular area of the business that perhaps has got really, really good results versus an area that hasn't, you can track back through and you can start to find out, why is this not working in this area of the business? Perhaps we don't have enough champions. Perhaps they don't have senior management support. Perhaps they're not finding the program interesting enough. So just a few pieces on measurement to wrap us up. And I think we will leave it there. So Denise, thank you so much for coming along and sharing your wisdom.
Not at all. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Love talking about champions.
And thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. And we will be in touch soon. We have no sessions over the summer, but we will be doing a session in the new year around, can I remember now? We're going to be doing a research piece around Champions programs internationally. So we're going to be starting to share that research piece in the autumn as well. All right. Speak soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.